What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show. Well, can I bring you back to this? Because we'll get down that rabbit hole forever. That's a good conversation.
Absolutely.
But
so
I want to come back to this picture we were looking at.
Yes. So getting all the way back, because we definitely got down on a tangent there. But since you and I talked, and I found this ancient temple, as I was saying, through images and other archaeologists that have been talking about the stone masonry being some of the finest they've seen in all these aspects. When I saw just one photo, and I had known already the significance of the symbols and the icons that I saw, I had exactly like that moment of George Smith. And not that I'm going to compare to his discovery, but I literally ran around the room 3 times. Okay? I absolutely did, because I know, at least in my heart, in my expertise and what I've looked at, the significance of this site. Now, the site is called Ionis, and it's called Haldi Temple. And it's part of this mysterious lost civilization I talked about last time called the Ararat civilization. That is not what archaeologists are calling it. Archaeologists believe that this entire set of ancient sites around Lake Van in eastern Turkey is built by a civilization that came 8 to 10 plus thousand years later. Mm-hmm. They believe that it's built by the Urartian civilization.
Urartian.
Urartian. The Urartian civilization was interesting because the name itself comes from the word Ur, which is an ancient Sumerian city called the city of Ur.
Alessi, do you think you could find some? I don't really even know how to search this, but maybe you'll be able to picture what I'm picturing in my head. Could you search like oldest human tribe civilizations? Yeah, just search that. I'd love to see like what they say, because you hear some of these like Sumerians,
they're always
Babylonians,
primitive. Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, they just show something primitive, and it's like the mindset is interesting.
Point being, what you're how do you say that again?
Ionis.
Ionis, but the other one that starts with a U?
Oh, Urartian.
Urartian. So are they like before all this?
They came after, and they found the ruins and remnants of this civilization, and they knew their ancestral connections to it, and so they built right on top. Just like we see in a lot of other places around the world. But when I found Ionis, it changed my entire life. Just to say that really frankly. It changed my entire life to the point where I realized that what was there was so significant that I was going to focus my entire career and my entire life going forward on uncovering the secrets of this civilization. Yes.
Even more than Eridu?
It's like if I have a good poker hand like we were talking about, but I don't know how to hold it back and I just talk about it. It's a really good poker hand. Might be the best poker hand, but I want to hold back to say that until we go over and talk about it.
Who did you say originally found this spot?
So the history behind that, let me give a little bit of background for that. Lake Van is in eastern Turkey. It's near the Armenian border. It used to be Armenia before the Turkish genocides over 100 years ago or so.
Yep. That's a really forgotten
And that's
history.
A horrible thing, because what happened is Turkey came in and they wanted to claim that land for themselves, and it was an ancient Armenian place, so they basically created a mass genocide and killed a lot of Armenian people, and it was very sad. But they took over that region and made it Turkey, but it used to be ancient Armenia. And ancient Armenia is one of the oldest places on Earth, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, that site called Ionis.
And we'll be putting this intermittently in the corner of the screen for people following along. As it comes up, we'll put it back up.
I realized that those discoveries were so significant that I started my own company called Ionis Legacy after that site.
In like August? Or?
Just about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, this is like brand new.
Brand new as my entire focus going forward, okay? Now, before we talk about that, though, I want to give you what you just were asking me about a background on the site. In 1989, there was a professor named Professor Isliki. He's part of the Turkish archaeological professional archaeologist there. He came along, and I have to give that man a lot of credit. If he ever listens to that, he is a great man. He's not part of the cover-up history of the past or any of these things that have happened, because some of these sites were found in 1954, and then nobody ever heard of them again. But in 1989, Professor Isliki comes along, and they're studying this place called Ionis. And Ionis is on the east side of Lake Van, and it's basically a large hilltop It's beautiful, actually, that looks right over vast Lake Vaughn, and it faces directly at this massive 13,000-foot mountain called Mount Sufon, an ancient volcano. And it faces directly with the setting sun. It's a solar temple. It's based on they're basically worshiping the sun. It's a sun temple, and their focus is the temple aligns, I believe, to the setting of the sun, whereas the Kef temple on the other side of the lake is facing the east for the rising sun. So they seem to be sun temples, and that's clear. But what happened was with the story that's so fascinating is that when they were at the foot of the hill and they were just trying to find, they knew that there was something there. They had history of something being there. And so they had a lot of strong evidence that something was at that location, but it was buried under massive amounts of debris and sediment, similar to Shuruppak and Sumer that we talked about a minute ago from the ancient Sumerian lineage, which is directly related to this. They found a mountaintop that had all this sediment piled on top of it, but they started to find remnants of mysterious walls and things at the lower part. And what they uncovered was, as they came up, they found an ancient road, like a very, very well-made road. And when they started excavating, they found these massive basalt megaliths, these walls that were created that are so precise that it looks like they were almost cut out of like cookie cutters and just the same. Like if you were at the beach and you had a bucket and you were making a sandcastle, and you filled that like a castle-like bucket design that would make that shape, right? And you filled it with sand and you put it down, you can make the same thing over and over again. That's like identical. That's what it looks like they did. When you look at some of the walls that they found as they started going up Ionis, it's like, how did they build these like perfect basalt, very hard stone walls? But what's very obvious, and we'll have an image to show hopefully later, is that above it had extremely primitive brickwork, like very, very primitive brickwork, to the point where it had eroded so much that you could almost barely even see the bricks anymore. That's Urartian civilization. They built exclusively with bricks. They didn't build anything with anything but bricks.
How do we know that?
Because all of the Urartian civilizations are established based on, if you have a culture, they have similar mindsets. They have cultural abilities. Like they can only build things to a certain level of sophistication. Artwork is often a way to represent how advanced a culture is, how beautiful the artwork is, the pottery, the things they build is a reflection on how sophisticated that civilization reaches. The Urartian civilization was a warlike civilization that was more of a conquering culture. And a lot of the artifacts and the things they had were not only pretty primitive compared to what we're talking about, but they literally don't even match in any way. It would be like you trying to take artifacts from now and then like matching them up to like the colonial era or something. It doesn't make sense. It's like doesn't come from even the same, it doesn't even relate to each other. And interestingly, the archaeological papers from excavations on each of these sites, the archaeologists have come out very openly without going too far, but to basically point out things like these symbols don't realign with the Urartian symbols. This seems highly advanced, seems to have emerged out of nowhere. Things like, well, previous archaeologists that laid the framework believe this symbol means this. And it's so hard for them to say it, to be like, oh, well, I guess it does. They're like, well, it looks just like the Tree of Life icon. Let me give you an example. This site's called Ionis Kalesi for the mainstream name. Kalesi means fortress. There's never a fortress. That automatically gives the wrong purpose of the site in the first place, because they're looking at through the lens of the Urartian civilization, which was building castles and was warlike.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.